Well, now it's time for one of the cars out of my collection, and today we feature the 04 Aston Martin DB9. This one has been modified by Chip Foose, but before we get into the subtle Chip Foose details, let me tell you that this is Aston Martin Racing Green, and something else I enjoy, a red leather interior. Now, the combination works out nice, but the story goes that my good friends over at Galp and Aston Martin gave me a call when these things were coming out, and they said, somebody fell off the list. You want to order a car? And I said, well, I don't know how my work's going right now. And they said, order a car. If you got the money, you can pick it up when they deliver it in 9 months. If you don't have the money, we'll sell it that day.
Smooth.
I said, all right, I'm going to order a car. I want the Aston Martin Racing Green and the Oxblood Red interior, and they said, if you order that car, you need to buy that car because we're not going to be able to sell that car. I said, why? That's Aston Martin Racing Green. You see, everyone gets these cars in either black or silver, and the cars were designed for the color that's on them. I mean, you look at it this way. Aston Martin made their car for Aston Martin Racing Green in the sense that picture a Ferrari, 360, 430, whatever Ferrari, even go back to Testarossa, pontoon Testarossa, any of those cars. Now picture one of those cars in color. It would look like shit. The lines aren't right.
I agree.
So a car does have its color.
Certain cars look right.
In certain colors.
It's like
a certain Mercedes looks good in silver.
A Ferrari in chocolate brown, how's that gonna look?
Looks like brown. Looks like what brown comes out of your ass.
That's point well made.
That's the point. So, Aston Martin Racing Green, red leather interior. They all thought I was insane, but when it arrived,
hot.
You know how they knew it was hot? They put it on the turntable. That's how you always know it's hot. All right, so what did Chip Foose do to this car? First thing he did was get rid of the horrible looking dot side markers. You see, when you see the car at the auto show a year earlier, it looks bitchin', and then you see it at the dealer a year later and it doesn't look quite right. Looks like a hot chick with a zit and some braces, and you're like, what happened? I'll tell you what happened. The Department of Transportation got hold of it, said you need side markers that come out of a parts bin and always look like an afterthought.
And about 4 feet big. And
yes, and they are an afterthought. And if you've been to the factory, and Donnie and I, wait a minute, you were there too. We've been to the Aston Martin factory. They look beautiful, and then some guy gets a Sawzall out for the stupid Americans and starts slapping in a bunch of shit that you don't need. So we got rid of the side marker. We also got rid of the mount for the front license plate, which was just one more piece of crappy plastic. But most importantly, Chip put the hood scoop in.
You're a fan of the hood scoop.
I love the hood scoop, and all the Aston Martins historically, when you look back at all the DBs, they all had the prominent hood scoop. They decided in their infinite wisdom not to incorporate a hood scoop into the latest generation, and I think that's a mistake. I think this car looks good. I wanted it to look a little like a 550 Ferrari, just not quite as aggressive. And by the way, when I pulled this thing into a party at Galp and Aston Martin, the designer from Aston Martin, the guy who designed this car was there. And I said, I put a scoop in the hood of mine, and he gave me the,
yeah, right, buddy.
Said, let me see. And so I said, it's over here. You want to take a look at it? And the guy was like, listen, I'll do the thinking around here. And then he walked over and he saw the car and he was like, wow, that works. So as you can see, it took the car and made it look much more aggressive. The other thing we did is around the back, and let me tell you a couple things. Quick philosophy. Everyone's putting bigger rims on their car. I don't like the bigger rims. This car came with 19s. I actually put 18s on them. Now these don't look that great. I gotta dial them in a little bit. Maybe it needs a satin finish instead of a gloss. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'll tell you one thing that's hot. Donnie, when I get a close-up of this, and one thing I had them change is I contacted my good friends over at Brembo and put a real 3-piece, or 2-piece I should say, disc on there. These cars actually came with an iron one-piece hat, rotor assembly. Little low rent for an expensive car. Little AutoZone for an expensive car. The thing I like about an 18-inch rim versus going up to the 20s or the 21s, look how much of that rotor fills up the inside of that. I mean, it literally fills up the entire thing. And so does the caliper for that matter. Very badass look, in my opinion. All right, now let's talk V12.
I'm about the mechanical, if you gotta know.
6-liter V12. I'll tell you one thing that wasn't a great sales pitch. So, you know, it's a $165,000 car. When I bought the car, I was like, so how's the engine work? It's like, well, 6-liter V12, 4 overhead cams. I'm like, awesome. He's like, basically, it's two...
Duratec.
Yeah, Duratec.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So
I've heard that argument. And I'm going,
two engines from a Ford Focus put together. That's an awesome sales point. If you're selling a $165,000 car, don't say it's basically two engines from $13,000 cars that we welded together.
a couple of Ford Focus motors or Contour, whatever the hell.
You should have seen the look on my face when he told me it's basically two Ford Duratec engines. That like if two Ford Duratec engines were butt fucking. But 6 liters, 450 horsepower, aluminum heads, aluminum valves. I should say aluminum block, aluminum pan. Everything in here is aluminum. And that about does it for the car of the week for my collection. We'll feature race cars, we'll feature street cars, but for this week, Aston Martin DB9.